have a question for you.
Okay.
What did you do for fun when you were a kid?
What did I do for fun when I was a kid? Um, I liked the first thing that comes to my mind was video games. Um, I had a PlayStation 1, then I had a PlayStation 2. I also had a Game Boy, like the original one. And I liked the Pokemon games. So I used to do that for fun. Um, Other than that, I can't really remember anything consistently that I would do for fun as a hobby.
Did you have Pogs?
Pogs? No.
Do you know what that is?
No, I don't, Unk.
Pogs are those little circular things with like characters on them, and then you
Yeah.
stack them up, and then you've got I don't remember what it's called, slammer. It was called a slammer,
Yeah.
and then you would try to flip them. So you bet with your friend. You each stack them up, and then you take your slammer, and then however many you flip, you take.
No, I never did that. I think I've heard of this before, but I
Really?
never did it. I think another thing I was like fond of was probably board games.
Hmm.
Things like Guess Who and Connect Four and Life, those kinds of games.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How old were you when like internet came out? Like, was it consumer level?
I was probably around 10 years old, 9 or
Hmm.
10 years old.
I spent a whole childhood until I was like, 11, 12 probably. I think I remember the first time typing on the internet. I was, like 12 or 13. I don't remember.
hmm
Um, but I've experienced a whole childhood without tech the way that we have it now. And kind of still living in the old world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Before,
I would say definitely that was the same
yeah.
in my case.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun, actually, because I spent all my time outside with my friends,
hmm
and we would like imagine stuff, games that we're playing or scenarios or whatever, we were doing all that stuff, kind of using our imagination to just have fun because we didn't have that much stuff to feed our imagination with, like the internet. I remember once when I was 8, I had this moment when we're outside, me and my friends at the apartments, and I just looked up, and it was in the middle of the day. I looked up and I saw the moon, and I was just staring at it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's a gigantic ball up in the sky. Like, how is it not falling on us right now? This is crazy." And I just thought about that for like a few seconds, a minute, something like that. And I was in full like wonder, awe, and marvel about this thing. I'd seen it a billion times, of course, but
Yeah.
one time it just struck me, and I never forgot that. Actually, it was really interesting. I don't know that doesn't happen anymore. I feel like it doesn't happen as much anymore. So what do you think? I mean, the whole power of the imagination.
Yeah, I see where you're going. You're painting a very sad picture of the current world that we live in.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the imagination has been, I don't want to say hijacked, maybe that's the right word, by things that weaken its power or make it not necessary. Namely different technological developments.
Yeah.
So for me, I think there's still things that I stop and think about like that. Whether it's something like what you're saying, like for example, if I go to a place that's a little bit more remote than the city environment or the suburban environment that we're in, and you can see all the stars in the sky, you definitely are going to stop and admire that because it's not something you see every day. And then you're going to appreciate it a little bit more as a feature of the nature that surrounds us. So whether it's that or whether it's, I'll be traveling somewhere like I was just doing recently, and I'll kind of stop in a busy city square or on a busy street somewhere, and I'll think like all this life is happening here and we're not aware of it while we're living in our self-enclosed world over there. And then my imagination will run. Or if you go to a place that has kind of a more stunning trend or offering of architecture, like for example, if you're in Rome or something like that, of course your imagination is going to be captivated by that kind of stuff because it's not something you see every day, or it's something you're used to seeing on screens and hearing about in articles, but then you see it in front of you and it takes a different shape. And you start thinking about it in a different way. So yeah, my imagination still is active, I guess. Definitely not the same as it was in the 90s, growing up in the 90s, which I think was the last like great decade for the imagination, maybe in the way that we're talking about it. But yeah, it's still there, thankfully.
Yeah, I feel like so much of like the joy or the pleasure of life as God has given it to us is allowing our imagination to be more free and to so this morning actually is the afternoon, the monks and we read the Psalms every afternoon and night.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, maybe Psalm 145 or 6, that's like around the number that we're on. There was a line, it said, God numbers the stars and names them. And there are a lot of stuff like that in the Bible. And that's really cool. That image struck me really nicely, actually, when we read that this morning. God numbers the stars and he names them, which is to say that there's something bigger than the stars, which is a really nice thought, and that the stars are just these things that God has power over to and dominance over to just name them one by one and whatever, and that this is a part of our creation that we belong to. And it's just kind of got my mind running in all kinds of directions, which was really cool. That an ancient culture, somebody from the ancient culture like that, was able to write down because he's looking at the stars and he's saying, another part of the Psalms, these are the works of your hands about God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the imagination, which is able to connect the things of creation with something bigger than it, which is God, and how they relate to one another, I just think it's a really cool thing. It's I feel like it's kind of stunted now. I could just be speaking of myself, Maybe that's a lot to do with, the modern society has largely manipulated nature, so there's nothing enchanting about it anymore because we have control over it, so to speak. Maybe it's because our imaginations are fed so much by social media, TV, whatever it is, videos, constant reels, or whatever it is. But I just feel like we're not as creative in our minds anymore as we used to be. And I think such a pleasure of life is the ability to be creative again.
So on one hand, you can read a psalm or honestly just kind of observe nature yourself in a careful way and say that there's something as beautiful as the stars, the things you see in the sky that take you beyond what you see in front of you or what you can hold in your hand. If that's cool to you or brilliant, and if it captivates your imagination so much, then how much more amazing must the creator of those things be?
Mm-hmm.
So religion can be something that draws the imagination, activates it, and then I would say baptizes it, which is a great thing. But in the world we are in now, I think this was what you're observing with the stunting of the imagination, I think was inevitable since Enlightenment stuff happened.
Yeah.
Because you go from a way of existence where you think that there are truths that maybe the eye can't see or our tools can't measure, to go into a way of living where the only thing that is worth paying attention to or that's worth taking seriously is something that can be measured and verified empirically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's going to stunt the imagination inevitably, and it has. I don't think that's really a debatable thing. And from my own anecdotal perspective, if I want to say something like that, I get so impressed and I appreciate it so much when I see someone be creative. When I see someone suggest an idea that was very outside of the box, that had nothing to do with technology aiding them in getting to that idea. It's always like a refreshing thing to see in front of you when someone is able to manifest their imagination on a project or some kind of thing like that.
Mm-hmm.
How has it become stunted, I think, is another good question to talk about. Yeah, the world that we're living in is postmodern and it's been affected by empiricism, but there are still forms of media where the shows or the content being displayed is not based only on empiricism. So there are things that maybe could activate the imagination in shows or movies or literature, but it's not quite what it once was. Even if it's that, It's not quite what it once was, and I think it's overly saturated with agendas that people have.
Yeah, it's overly saturated with agendas, and then we're overly saturated with it. I think like we're not a. I think a large part of it is that we don't allow our own imaginations to run wild because it's somebody else's imagination that's constantly feeding our own. So I think it's fine, for example, to read a novel. I'm reading a fantasy book right now, novel. It's great, it's created universe, created characters, everything, all that, the whole thing. And it's beautiful. But that's somebody else's imagination that I'm reading about, which is fine. It's gonna feed my own. It's gonna get me to think about things. It's not a movie, so I get to create the images in my own mind, and so on and so forth. But I'm a participant insofar as I am creating these images in my own mind based on the reading. But where am I being creative? How is my imagination now being expressed? And how can I engage that more often? I think that in a culture like ours, which has so much and is so saturated with so many things, I don't know that we have the boredom anymore to allow our imagination,
or like the time for leisure,
or the time for leisure,
or the proper definition of leisure.
Yeah, actual rest. Yeah. Where we're engaging our mind in something, And when I was, again, going back to that story, when I was 8 years old, I was just walking around outside with my friends, and then I was struck by this moon out of nowhere.
Yeah. Even though it's like we've been living in the same country since the 90s, now even more so than back then, I would say the expectation for life is that if you're not being useful, or you're not moving up the ladder of success in some way, then you're wasting your time. But if you set aside some time for leisurely activity where your imagination has room to be active, and there's wonder that's happening in your mind, okay, that's not really a period of time where you're moving up that ladder of success or doing something that is considered useful or like as a source of utility for people around you. So then there's a conflict there.
Yeah.
You're not being useful, so you're doing something not good. Your existence at that moment is not good.
Yeah, that's right.
But what if you're using that time to activate this other part of your existence that's getting ignored or stunted, like you were saying earlier? So yeah, it's just I think the culture we're living in is, like you said, it's overly saturated with information. I was saying this like on the last Feeding Fathers episode too. Like, I don't think we're meant to know or be surrounded by this much at one time. I think it's too much for the human being. And then this is one of the things that gets affected. This is one of the ways that you can demonstrate that it's too much for the human being. Like, if you look at what happens to the imagination of people, I don't think you're going to get like Tolkien's anymore or like C.S. Lewis's anymore, which is sad. But I don't think you're going to get that anymore unless people notice this pattern and do something about it. I don't think you're even going to get J.K. Rowling's anymore. It's not to say that everyone, or there has to be a group of people committed to like high quality authorship through books. But like, look what society misses when it doesn't have that. I'd say now there's some people around that do that with film and TV shows, rarely, but there are still some people around that have that kind of imagination or that acuity in terms of creativity, but it's not common. And if it's been now like if now it's not there in terms of literature and it's there in terms of like things you can see on a screen, then how much more is it going to get diluted as time encroaches in the future?
Yeah, we're not even able to a large part of the creative culture now is just repeating older stuff. So you have remakes of older movies.
I'm getting really sick of that, to be honest.
It's very annoying, but it's telling. It's a commentary on the culture. We can't think of new ideas anymore.
That comment right there says a lot. Even though it's like a surface observation of like what's in front of you in the media, that's a big comment. I think that the mainstream thing to do now is remakes.
It's just remix, regurgitate.
You know what I saw this morning that was actually about that? Okay, the Sylvester Stallone Rocky franchise, I know it started like what, in the 70s?
Yeah.
70s. I think 76 was Rocky 1. The producers could fact check that, but
Yeah.
it's still like relatively recent because of how long that franchise was going. So now, what's being done? Now there's a movie being made about Sylvester Stallone making the first
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Rocky movie, and like a guy plays Sylvester Stallone, and a guy plays Carl Weathers, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why that's needed. I don't know why that's necessary.
Because the fans of Rocky from the 70s have nothing else to watch now.
Or people will say like there's still more to explore about the characters. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that there is, but that's just like one example of the stuff that we're talking about, like unnecessary remakes.
Or like you can't make another Star Wars, so you just beat that franchise to death. You keep making movies.
Bro,
and then you start making
I like
shows.
Star Wars.
You like the shows?
I like Star Wars.
What they say is they hate the shows though.
The shows? Bro, Kenobi?
I have not, look, Father Chris, I've never seen a Star Wars movie in my life.
Oh, okay. That's why you don't get it.
I have no idea.
That's why you don't understand. Yeah.
That's why I'm ignorant. Just say
No,
it.
Star Wars. I like Star Wars. I would agree that like it's fallen into that category of getting exhausted.
Yeah.
But I still like Star Wars. Some of the stuff they're putting out is still good quality.
Okay.
I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. But what I'm saying is they can't create another like thing like that.
Another whole universe like
Another whole universe like that. It's hard to do.
It
I mean,
is
there
very
are
hard to
authors
do.
that are doing it. Like this book I'm reading now is good. But
Let's say there are authors doing it. Good. Are they going to get attention now?
right.
That's another thing. Let's say there are people that are dialing down and still being committed to originality and using the expanse of the imagination. Are those people going to be successful with in terms of how trends are measured right now? I don't think so. The habit of like the remakes and the stunting of the imagination is now just a mainstream thing.
Yeah.
Letting someone else think for you is now just a mainstream thing.
Yeah. And in religion, you see this in religion big time, with the watered down liturgies or architecture or art, whatever it is. Like a lot of this stuff is just silly now, basically.
Yeah.
But then now there's a big resurgence for the desire for greater liturgies and more robust artwork and better architecture and all, because people have this need to live for something bigger, to live in a world where something more than it is clear to us. Like a gigantic cathedral or beautiful artwork or music that just kind of takes you beyond the present moment or whatever it is. Another world, and that's good, because since the Enlightenment, we've stopped believing that angels and demons live from within, are like around, or that, miracles are a possibility, or that, we can communicate with the saints, or that the world of God and our world, since the Enlightenment, we've believed that they're completely separate worlds.
Yeah.
And so this world is all that we've got. We can't imagine anything beyond it.
Yeah.
In a religion, it destroys religious expression.
Definitely. If we continue on the same path, it doesn't matter which rite we're talking about, but if we continue on the same path of liturgical reform and most of the rites that we see, then the only thing that's going to be left at some point, I think in the near future, would be just the necessary elements.
Yeah.
Just, words of a liturgy of the word, barely a homily, and a consecration. There would be really nothing else surrounding it, nothing else giving it structure, a skeleton.
Keep it as short as possible.
Keep it as short as
go
possible.
back to work.
Yeah, exactly. You see that in the decrease of time that it takes for a liturgy to happen. I mean, some liturgies, the Eastern liturgies and the various Eastern rites will still take a while. I'm not saying that everyone should strive for that, but it's not allowing itself to be stunted at as rapid of a pace as everything else is. I'm not saying that's like the end all be all, everyone should be like that or anything, but it's cool when that thing that's more is still preserved, and it's not allowed to be taken away just because of the trend of convenience.
I feel like when people read scripture, they, like Lectio Divina is a term that people throw around. It's good. It's a form of reading the Bible meditatively. So you read, I don't know, the Beatitudes. And Jesus is, he sits down and he's speaking to his disciples, and he says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, there's the kingdom of heaven," and the rest of it. One of the ways to engage the imagination in prayer, and I think that the Gospels invite us to do this, is to, read that story and imagine yourself as one of the members of the crowd. Maybe one of the ones in the front row if you want to. And Jesus is speaking, and every once in a while, his eyes will land on yours. And then he'll go around the crowd, and he's speaking to you, and you're listening, and you're hearing it. And that's a powerful way. Obviously, the imagination is a tool that God has given us, and it's a tool that he's given us so that ultimately we can communicate with him, and then I think reflect his goodness and his love and his creativity in this world. But in prayer, it can be like that. We imagine ourselves as one of the members of the crowd, and Christ is speaking to us, and just like them, we're also firsthand listeners.
Yeah, speaking of the weight and the effects of imagination, if you don't foster that, I mean, parables are going to be very hard to understand and to digest.
That's right.
I think those are directly for the imagination, among other modes of understanding, but those really put you in the crowd. Those really put you there as, one of the people listening to Jesus, giving these images for your imagination. And then when you talk about this power that we have, this ability that we have to imagine things, and you talk about you being made in the image of God as a human being, this is one of the things where you share in the life of God, where you share in the existence of God, this imagination. As far as I know, other creatures don't have imaginations. So if we lose this, parables are going to be hard to digest. Other teachings that Jesus speaks about using images in the gospel are going to be hard to digest. And then your humanity is going to go away. It's going to weaken over time. This is part of what makes us human, is the fact that we can imagine things, the fact that our intellect can, reflect on images that we not necessarily can touch in front of us, but can reflect on images that can lead us to wonder, that can lead us to create, that can lead us to expressing and pursuing truth.
Supposedly animals have a kind of imagination, like a sensible imagination, where they have phantasms. So, like, they'll have dreams, for example, and phantasms exist in their dreams. So, I don't know how that's verifiable, but supposedly that's the case. But it's not. They wouldn't be coherent the way that it is with a human being. Like Tolkien uses imagination to create Middle Earth and a whole new language with its own script, and all these different creatures and species, and all that stuff, and then a whole story that is able to connect human morality into another world that can transfer back to us and teach us a lesson.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It's amazing,
Yeah, it's a crazy transfer.
That's the imagination abstracting and able to create a whole universe, kind of just like God did, except it's not a material. God, let's say, imagined the world into creation and gave it being.
Yeah.
That's not a theological statement I'm making. It's a image.
Yeah.
But the power of the imagination is to be able to think in symbols. I think animals can't do that because they don't have intellect. To be able to think in symbols. So, like, the baptismal waters are a symbol of something more, which is the washing of the soul, the coming of the Holy Spirit. The water is a symbol, and God enters that symbol and makes it reality. I don't think animals can do that, but yeah, we have this wonderful power, and it's supposed to help us connect to God, since God is beyond. It's really the imagination that helps us live for something beyond this world and understand that it's a reality.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, as we're talking about this, about religion's part in imagination, or how faith has a role in this conversation. It's like, my thoughts aren't clear right now, but there's definitely like something to say about this. But then the question comes, if what we observe around us in culture and society is trending in this way, what do you do about it?
Jesus says, what does he say? I should know what he says before I say Jesus says. Look at the birds of the sky,
Okay.
right? Look at the grass in the field.
Yeah.
And then he uses them as a basis for his parables to understanding the kingdom of God, right?
Yeah.
Look at the birds of the sky. They neither toil nor reap, yet God takes care of them. He feeds them, right? Look at the grass in the field. They're more beautiful than even King Solomon in all of his glory.
Yeah.
Right? So he's using things of nature as a basis for understanding the kingdom of God. It's like the parable that you were talking about before. I think sometimes we just have to do that. Like, stop the reels, stop the shorts, stop the YouTube videos, stop doom scrolling, whatever. Like, relax, be a little bit bored outside and walk around. Then people say now they go out and touch grass, go hang out with your people or whatever it is. Go do something personable, wholesome, and let your mind work. Your mind naturally gravitates towards a healthy imagination. And obviously, I think the other part of this we haven't even talked about is how much not just has our imagination been saturated and fed, but how much it's been polluted by bad images.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other subject.
Yeah.
This reminded me of one thing. When I was just in Italy, there was one night where I was having dinner with some of the people in our group, and for some reason it got very hot in the restaurant, and I said I want to go outside. So I just went and sat outside. This was in I think it's Piazza Navona, where the Pantheon is. I'm not sure if that's the right piazza, but it was where the Pantheon is. There's a restaurant right there. And I left the restaurant, went and sat on the steps of the Pantheon, and just watched people for an hour until I caught up with another group that was another group of people from the main group that we had. And while I was doing that, and now that I reflect back on it too, it seems like some could call that unnatural, just to sit there for an hour and look at the things that are happening around you. But why should that be unnatural? Why should that be a waste of time? What if you can think about cool things or fruitful things in that time? For me, was great just taking that hour of rest. Just wanted to share that.
When I went to Italy earlier, did you guys go to Florence?
I did. Yeah, I took a day trip there basically because we had a morning where all we had was the papal audience, and then we had nothing to do for the rest of the day. So I said I haven't seen Florence, and I would like to go. So took a train.
Okay, so we spent a couple days in Florence. It was a part of our trip, and one of those days was mostly off. It was an off day until dinner. So we had 5-6 hours, whatever it was, after mass until dinner. And our guide had told us before, he pointed far, far away. There's a monastery on top of this hill, top of this really big hill. It wasn't quite a mountain, but it was a really big hill. The walk was maybe a couple hours away. So whatever. I went to it alone. Everybody else did other stuff, whatever. I ended up going to it alone. I actually took one of those scooters.
Okay.
That was fun. I went scootering around Florence.
Okay.
But then, by the time you get to the mountain, you can't take that thing up the hill. So yeah, I just walked up that thing, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. It was very far, and it was very high up, but it was just beautiful because there was a lot of solitude. I did it alone, and so I was able to think a lot. And the vantage point that you had was amazing. By the time I got to the monastery, I was wiped out. I was so tired, and it was kind of hot and things like that. But it felt so fulfilling because of how much I was able to exercise my mind, and how much I was able to just, let's say, encounter this whole experience and just embrace this reality right now, and not dilute myself by listening to something, and or water my own mind down by watching a video on my way there. I was able to soak it all in. It was beautiful.
Yeah, when you watch videos when you're putting any kind of content in front of you, it's not that you can't learn from these things, or it's not that these things won't empower your imagination. It's just that I think the kind of stuff that is around us, that surrounds us, is just the kind of stuff that makes you at some point stop thinking, stop wanting to, or stop being able to think for yourself, to form your own opinions, to have your own perspective. And along with like a loss of imagination, it's just like a loss of personality comes with it too.
Yeah.
And it's just sad. It's not like everyone has to go be this like wild creator,
Right.
imagining crazy things and then putting them onto paper or onto a screen. But you can tell when you observe people in general. I know not everything is like this, but when you observe people in general, there's not much substance there, and that has to do a lot with the imagination.
Well, it's like, I think we just have to wonder again.
Yeah.
We just have to wonder again. We have to be able to like look at what we're a part of and say, wow, this thing is actually incredible. It's way bigger than I can think about. It's way bigger than me, and way bigger than I can imagine, and so on and so on. And let me just sit there and marvel at this thing. It's amazing. The world, the stars, as you say, again, Psalm 8, says, I look up and I see the stars and the work of your hands, and I wonder, who is man that you care for him? That's an amazing thought.
Yeah, it's a very reflective thought.
Yeah.
And I know this maybe isn't like so much the category of imagination, but sometimes I'll be talking to couples and I focus more on this like reflective aspect. And I'll just kind of ask, don't you at some point sit and reflect, like, I get to have this lady as my wife?
Right.
Or same thing goes for the wife towards the husband. Don't you at some point let it hit you that this is the family you get to create, that you get to work on, that you get to live with? Like, isn't that cool? Isn't that a lot? Isn't that a blessing? If you don't, if there's no room for reflection in any kind of lifestyle, not just a married one, so what are you working for? What are you appreciating then?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with imagination. If you're living in the world, if you're not stopping and observing things and allowing your imagination to shape you here and there, so you're just going somewhere, doing something, collecting some money, or investing something, collecting some money, and then that's it.
Right.
So I think that's where also religion comes into play, to make it, not just free for all in terms of imagination on this open field where like anything you imagine is cool and fine and should be expressed. It takes the imagination and puts a compass on it so that it gets to the true bigger thing that there is, which is God, and striving towards that.
Yeah. So like, obviously not everyone's going to be an artist or a musician or a painter or whatever, novelist or whatever.
But everyone should be someone who reflects.
Everybody should be reflecting. And reflection is going to just make the imagination run wild. It's going to take you to cool places because you're thinking about these things and you're a part of it. That's an amazing thought to have. People, I think we have forgotten how beautiful just a good thought is. Just a good thought, how much joy that brings to the soul.
Yeah, I get a lot of joy when a good thought for a homily comes up.
Yeah.
Because then it's not just like something I think about now, like people get to think about it too. Yeah, there's like, I don't know if I have a healthy imagination. I don't even know how to categorize that.
Yeah.
I think if you're someone in like the religious field, or someone who kind of has to spend time reflecting and praying, I think your imagination's probably headed in the right direction. But there's been times where, this was even during my time in seminary, and still happens today. Like it doesn't happen like frequently, but it happens throughout the year, like several times. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, somewhere around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and with no conscious effort, like I'm not trying to do this, I just start thinking about things I would preach about for like a Good Friday or at a funeral, just completely random. But it's like my imagination is going, and then I have no say. But then I fall into like consciousness, like when I'm thinking about these things, and then I get my phone and I start writing notes of what I just thought, so I don't forget it for later.
Yeah.
But that's a cool thing that imagination can do. I don't know if that's called the imagination, but it's a cool thing your mind can do when you leave room for reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a guy one time, a theologian once said, I guess this is an old image, and I didn't know it at the time, but the fathers of the church used this too, where Christ is represented by the sun because he's the light of the world. Even in our liturgy is like that, right? Nahr Zaddiqa and all that.
Yeah.
So Christ is represented by the sun. This is in ancient liturgies and whatever it is. And then Mary is represented by the moon.
Yeah.
And when the theologian said that, and then a lot of the fathers of the church say that, I just thought that was really beautiful. So now when I look up at the moon at night, I actually think about the Virgin Mary. My mind has made that connection because it was made for me. My mind has associated the moon as a symbol of the Virgin Mary, and it helps me think about her.
Yeah, I guess imagination also has a pretty cool role to play in typology too.
Yeah, well, it's all of that, you know.
Yeah, like if you look at a tabernacle in a church, the whole story of Israel can come to mind, and the wilderness, and what God's presence started meaning in Scripture at that point in time. Yeah.
And then how it's supposed to point our minds also, it also itself is a type of something more, which is the heavenly tabernacle or the heavenly temple, the throne of God in heaven.
Yep.
You know, so the imagination is supposed to be taken there too.
Yeah. Like, actually, you need this for what the Catechism says about the four senses of Scripture. Like, this all has to be employed, or you're not going to get the full picture of what a passage will mean.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to read a parable like Jesus, you know, like Jesus' parable of Lazarus died and he was taken to Abraham's bosom. You know, without imaginative thought or an understanding of being able to maneuver through symbols, you're going to think that Lazarus dwells in the chest of Abraham or something like this, you know, which is weird. But if your imagination is healthy and it's clean, you know, I mean, that's part of it too. It's not polluted and it's not overly saturated, then you can really delve into the depths of the meaning of various passages in Scripture.
I'm also trying to think about, because you know this show is called Martyr Mentality. I'm trying to think about the imagination. You know, martyrs must have had people that stood as witnesses for their faith, not just by laying down their lives, but also by living a life that, you know, is set apart for God. And I think that conversation has to involve love and how it works in the imagination or with the imagination. For us, for example, we're existing, you know, a little over or around 2,000 years later after these events have happened that we read about in the gospel. But we weren't there. We didn't see these things happen. We didn't hear Jesus actually talking. So the gospel has to bring to life, and it does bring to life these things. But it's not just in a way where the stories are recited. Imagination can make you also different as a person, can make you feel things that transform you. And above all, the thing that makes you feel that transform you, and the thing that makes you experience that transforms you is the love of God. So for martyrs that lived long after Christ, and for people that are setting their lives aside as witnesses of the gospel, the imagination working with what the gospel has provided has changed people, like down to what they think is real, down to what they think is true, down to what they're willing to die for.
Hmm.
So that's also pretty cool when you think about the capabilities of the imagination.
And just what's promised, like imagining what's promised. We say that the martyrs are crowned, right? That's all over the liturgies. It's an old thing. I'll just tell you personally, I often think about that. Martyrdom doesn't just mean you die for the faith physically. It means that you die to your will and you do the will of God and so on. So you strive to live as holy a life as possible, denying, whatever would interrupt that. In my opinion, I'm like, I would love to have a crown in heaven. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay.
Yeah.
So like,
Sounds good.
yeah, so yeah, there's some things I'm willing to give up here. There's some things I'm willing to curb or check or hold in place or whatever it is. I'm willing to live for something higher because I would love to have a crown in heaven. Absolutely. So I imagine the martyrs probably have that in mind too. They're reading scripture. They're reading the promises of Jesus, what's in store for them and that's going to play into their imagination. Like Jesus says, you will sit on 12 thrones in the kingdom of heaven. Probably the apostles are thinking, that sounds pretty cool, man.
Yeah. So the problem is, if that kind of thinking is hindered, and the only thing that's real to you or worth thinking about to you is the stuff that you can see in front of you, then that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to be part of your life.
Yeah.
And that's how things kind of are. Not kind of. That's how they are in a very big way, in a widespread way. So it's like a question you have to ask yourself. Do I want to let my humanity diminish with all the content that surrounds me that starts slowing down or decreasing my capacity to think for myself? Or do I want to live fully in the image that I'm created in and let my imagination direct me towards the higher things that exist beyond just what I can see and touch and observe with my senses?
Yeah, I would advise people and myself to just slow down the intensity of content that we're receiving.
Yeah.
Like if you're every day eating ice cream with hot fudge and like whatever, a bunch of, I don't know, Snickers bars on top of it, whatever you want, right? Just all sugary stuff. You've oversaturated your palate for sweetness, and it's not going to be satisfied because it's learned that level of sweetness. You've overdone it. It's accustomed to that now, so that if natural sweetness is not going to be satisfactory to you anymore, you're not going to want to eat fruit.
Yeah.
So you can only be satisfied now with more hot fudge or more whatever. I just think that we're there as far as information intake or light intake or color intake or whatever, with everything that we're constantly consuming with screens and the speed by which we're consuming it. Now they're just getting shorter and shorter, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of why we find it so pleasant when we go to Europe, parts of Europe, or when we go to like Iraq.
Yeah.
And we see the lifestyle there is just less saturated. It's that intensity that you were talking about is less in these kinds of places. And so we start saying like, I want to retire here. I wish I could live here. It's because we're getting something that we lack here in America.
And we find it we naturally find it more wholesome. Yeah. And there's something very desirable about that.
Yeah.
But we can do it here, or we can at least get some level of it here.
Yeah. It's even like in the life of a priest, like speaking for myself, like there's so many times throughout the week where I say like, I should have made time to read right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
Because there was this other stuff going on that needed attention. On one hand, yeah, it's unfortunate that there's so many things that need attention. But on the other hand, so at what cost?
Every good requires a sacrifice or something else,
Yeah.
So cool, man.
Yeah, slow down.
Slow down, relax on the intensity, go out and touch grass, say a prayer.
Look at the birds.
Look at the birds, look at the moon. Cool, man. Thank you for coming on.
Of course. You should watch Star Wars.
I don't know, man. A lot of people have been pressuring me to watch Star Wars, but at this point, it's like I kind of want to die with that. With that.
Like you're gonna wear that.
It's like I feel like it's an accomplishment.
Like it's a badge of honor that.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor.
I got through life without Star Wars.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Countercultural.
I'll be honest, like it doesn't have a lot of substance. It's just like very entertaining. It's a cute story, and there's nice moments, but it doesn't have like a heavy message that I think it's sending to the audience.
By the way, we talked about it, but I've also never seen a Rocky movie, man.
Rocky's interesting. We can talk about that another time. But Rocky has an interesting story here and there. Yeah, I have more to say on Rocky.
Cool, man.
Yes.
Yellow,
Until next time. Bye.
Until next time.